In the middle of the night, we see a man named Hirata walking on empty roads while surrounded by some guards. They are confronted by a mysterious samurai named Kurima Raizo, who doesn't waste any time in taking them down. His sword skills are impressive as he kills the men within a few seconds, but after he leaves, we see that Hirata is still alive. He takes out a gold biscuit and bites on it before dying. This allows another man to identify him when he finds his body. The next day, our hero is confronted by a man named Usui, who makes a brief introduction. Raizo wants to know what he wants, so Usui reveals he runs odd jobs in the city. He also says he heard from the public about a mysterious samurai, whose fighting style is strikingly similar to that of the legendary warrior Musashibo. Raizo is then questioned about his true identity because he's in hiding, so he explains that he's simply being careful because he recently killed a man. Usui doesn't understand why Raizo needs to hide if he had killed for a noble cause, so our hero explains that the person he killed was someone he knew. Usui empathizes with him, but says that this is the life of a samurai. Raizo feels a little lighter after speaking to Usui, and then he carries on his way. However, this is certainly not the last time these men are going to see each other. Raizo walks away from the city after looking back at it one last time. On his way, he is greeted by some warriors on horses. It turns out that these are men under Matsumine, who is Raizo's senior. We learn that Hirata is actually Raizo's father-in-law, and the warriors compliment him for his loyalty, but also reveal that they're here to kill him. Things are about to get intense, but then our hero hears a voice telling him to jump off the cliff if he wants to survive. Raizo instinctively jumps, but is shot and injured on his way into the flowing river. The warriors feel that he couldn't have survived this, so they decide to leave and inform Matsumine about it. Luckily, Raizo is rescued by a girl named Nio, although his injuries are a bit too extreme. Regardless, he's nursed back to health, and he wakes up inside Usui's house. Along with Usui is Nio, who is revealed to be his assistant. Usui goes on to explain to our hero what the underworld is like over here. Usui says that the Satsuma clan has been making deals with the English merchants for opium, and Hirata was actually snooping around the city of Nagasaki to find the true culprit behind the deals. Raizo is shocked to hear this because he wasn't given the same story. Usui reasons that the one who hired Raizo is most likely the mastermind behind the opium deal. This means that Matsumine is the villain and was about to be outed by Hirata, but that was when Raizo came and killed him. Our hero breaks down into tears over his mistake and curses himself for killing his fiance's father. However, Usui says that Hirata had entrusted him with following up after his death. We learn that the mysterious man from earlier was actually Usui, and he shows us the gold biscuit Hirata had in his mouth. Usui says that he has the layout of Matsumine's hideout and asks Raizo to help him take down the villain. He readily agrees, so the team makes their way to the hideout. Raizo wonders whether his fiancée Yui will forgive him for killing her dad, but Usui tells him to focus on the mission for now. The team carries out with their strategy, and Raizo analyzes the floor plan of the hideout. He comes up with a point of entry and escape, but is told to stay behind because he can't risk showing himself to Matsumine. Now, the team makes it inside the hideout, using the help of a doctor named Teppa, who is also part of the squad. We see Matsumine having a word with his advisors as they laugh over how foolish Raizo was to blindly follow Matsumine's orders. The men run out of booze, so they look for their servers but can't find anyone there. It so happens that Raizo has also taken off to carry out his own plan, and Teppa notices what he's doing. Neo brutally kills one of the villains by slashing his neck. The others step out with their guns, but are killed by Usui and another teammate named Soji. Usui shows off his golden cloth, which he uses to cover his victim's face, and then he chants his incantation to kill the man without mercy. However, the team isn't able to find Matsumine, who has escaped through an exit that Raizo didn't tell Usui about. Our hero corners Matsumine outside and slashes him in an instant to get his revenge. He walks away from the scene not knowing that Usui and his team are spying on him. They lament the way in which the job was completed, but Usui tells Neo to ring their chapel bell anyway. Now Raizo rushes towards Yui, hoping to repent for his sins, but when he reaches her, he sees that she's killed herself out of the grief of losing Hirata, and also because she doesn't know that Raizo is still alive. This breaks our hero's heart, and he holds Yui in his arms, lamenting the mistakes he's made. A flashback shows us how Raizo would train under Hirata. Our hero is brutal with his moves, and then Yui brings some refreshments for the man. Raizo takes off his clothes in front of Yui, and it makes her blush. Hirata jokes with the couple by saying they should get used to this because they're going to get married soon. Our hero is suddenly traumatized when he sees Yui killing herself, and he wakes up from his nightmare. Then, he laments that Yui didn't deserve to die. Now Usui visits the chapel and presents himself to the lead priest. He offers the gold biscuit that Hirata had given him. And then, the priest begins a chant asking his god Deus to forgive him and everyone else in this chapel for their sins. The priest comments on how members of the chapel are allowed to commit acts of revenge on behalf of others. However, he warns Usui because he knows that someone outside the team had killed Matsumine. Usui is given a reduced payment for his services and has to take the silver back to the team. They're not happy with the money brought in, but Usui says that the chapel knows about Raizo killing Matsumine. He says that Raizo should be included in the team, but Neo states that he's better off dead instead. Soji is frustrated by the idea of paying the samurai for their work, but decides to take a share off the payment and walks away. Now Teppa tends to his patient, Mana, who is revealed to be in her final few days because she's a woman of the night. She teases the doctor for a bit, and then she offers her a gold biscuit. Teppa is surprised by this, and then he learns that Mana wants revenge against her husband who had deceived her. It turns out that Mana was told by her husband that he was a rich businessman, but he was actually in tons of debt. This is what led her to become a woman of the night, and she also seems to have a grudge against her pimp. Mana begs the doctor to help her get revenge, and he accepts her job as she's literally breathing her last few breaths. Later, Usui gives Raizo his share of the payment, and reveals that he's part of a gang called Revengers. Raizo is puzzled by this, but Usui explains that revenge is something that is necessary, no matter how wrong it might be. The men have a brief debate regarding the morality of killing for money, and then Usui justifies himself by saying the gold biscuits are not just a form of payment, but rather a mark of their clients. Later, the men go and meet Teppa, who tells them about Mana's job. Raizo is skeptical at first, but then the doctor explains how important this is to Mana, as she has even forsaken her funeral costs to get the gold biscuit. Raizo is unsure of what to do, so he walks away, but Teppa tells him to consider using his blade for these jobs in order to make it up to Yui. Our hero decides to finally accept his job as a revenger, and then we see Mana's husband acting like a brat. He's given an overpowered guard who's been hired to look after him because of his bratty actions. As Raizo explores Teppa's weapons room, we see the husband with his guard on a boat. He is made to row the boat so that the guard can keep him protected, and that's when Teppa pops up on his roof and shows off his impressive arrow weapon as well as his bulky body. The arrow kills the guard and sinks the boat, so the husband swims away to safety. However, he bumps into Raizo, who unleashes his new spiked shoes to kill the husband with ease. Meanwhile, Mana's pimp abuses a night lady and runs into Neo, who teases him. The pimp chases after her, hoping to get some heaven on earth, but then Usui appears and uses his gold cloth to send them straight to hell. Now we see Neo and Raizo making their way to Chinatown in Nagasaki. They sit down and enjoy a meal, but then a bald man shoots his shot at Neo. Raizo tells him this isn't a good idea, so he gets nervous and leaves the scene. Now Raizo asks Neo about a habitation he spots on a hill, and learns that it's filled with all kinds of poor people who can't afford to live in the pleasure quarters. Now, they spot an innocent shopkeeper getting questioned by a man named Sakata, who accuses him of selling opium. He shows some opium that was exposed by the shopkeeper's wife, so he makes the arrest. Raizo is confused, so Neo explains that the shopkeeper is only being punished because he didn't pay Sakata any bribes. Now, we see Soji getting woken up from his nap by a girl named Hana. It turns out that Teppa, Raizo, and the others are moving into the house, and it puts Soji in a spot of bother. He loses it when Raizo is chosen to be his roommate, but he doesn't really have a choice. Later, Usui asks Neo about Raizo, but she says she doesn't like spending time with samurais. Usui explains that Raizo will soon have to stop being a samurai, and it confuses Neo, so they have a short debate. Meanwhile, Raizo tries to make friends with Soji, but it's of no use. Now, we see a playboy named Isarizawa, who is busy sharing his tongue with some harem girls. Usui interrupts his session, and then he is briefed about his latest mission. It turns out that Isarizawa is part of the Satsuma clan and is worried about Raizo. He asks Usui if he knows anything about Raizo, but he pleads ignorance. Isarizawa says that he needs to take care of Sakata because he wants to control the trade unions. Eventually, he reveals a bitten gold biscuit and tells Usui to kill Sakata as per the code of the Revengers. Now, Teppa and Neo check out the habitation and find tons of women suffering here. They find the shopkeeper's wife, who reveals that she framed her husband as per Sakata's instructions so that she could get some medicine in return. The duo quickly rushes to the rest of the team to relay this information. Now Usui mentions killing Sakata, so Soji volunteers for it. He decides to take Raizo along for the ride because he wants a samurai by his side. The team gets to work at night, and then Soji decides to place a gamble with Raizo, wherein the warrior with the most kills will get to keep their room. Raizo accepts these terms and rushes to complete his mission, but Soji thinks he'll mess up by making noises. Raizo proves him wrong by killing the guards with silent but deadly moves. This prompts Soji to also get to work. Now Raizo finds Sakata and confronts him, but holds back when he spots Soji approaching from behind. He allows Soji to kill Sakata, but also kills a hidden guard, so the gamble ends in a draw between both men. Meanwhile, Teppa tells Usui that there's a lot of risks involved with making Raizo a revenger, but Usui is prepared for the challenge. That's the end of part 1. You know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe for part 2. See you soon.